Hello again, and welcome to another episode of East Got Game, where we give you the X's, the O's, and the insights of the NBL One East competition for 2025. Thank you for joining us tonight on live on YouTube and Instagram. Remember, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Instagram and Facebook at East Got Game. Or you can continue to find our episodes on your preferred streaming platforms. On this week's episode, we'll be covering our East Got Game of the Week, our Good Eggs of the Week, aka our top performances of the round, and we'll also be playing an interview with a very special guest. But first, let's check in. It's me, Squin, the most vulnerable person to Instagram scams in the NBL One East. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Lockie France, who is the protector of Instagram accounts from scammers in the NBL One East. Lockie, it's been a day. It's been a day for us.
It's been a day. It's not how I expected to start life as a 37-year-old, but that is what it is.
Yeah, so let's actually first rewind a little bit and say a massive happy birthday to you, Lockie, for yesterday. Happy birthday. And I'm glad that you mentioned your age because I actually had forgotten how old you turned.
I really wish I didn't know how old I turned, but thank you, Squin.
Yeah, so my present to you was giving you the responsibility that you've now earned as a 37-year-old by protecting our Instagram account from the, how would I say, misguided generosity of myself. So
I think that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, basically, I had good intentions. Basically, got a message from an NBL One East player saying, "Hey, will you vote for me in this thing?" And halfway through work, I'm like, "Yeah, sure, why not? I need a distraction or procrastination from my actual job." Signed into this thing using our Instagram account. Wouldn't work, and then all of a sudden we started getting these notifications about all these strange sign-ins, and there we go, we were scammed. So I think a whole bunch of our followers were also messaged with the same link once the scammers had access to our account. So massive apologies to everyone that got that random message about voting for us for a podcast, which, being a podcast, could actually seem like a real legitimate request. So hopefully no one else got caught up in the scam because of my negligence. But big thank you to you, Lockie, for recovering everything, because that would have been a headache.
It's a good thing I worked from home today.
Yeah. It's a very good thing you worked from home, and a very good thing that you know how to do those things, because I think I would have just been stressing out. And our friend SJ from Love of the Game on Instagram said that I need more spam email training. And the funny thing is that we legitimately have to do spam email and scam training at work. And look, it's rubbed off for me from using a work account, but perhaps not from social media. So I think you're right, SJ. I probably need a little bit more training. Need to wise up a little bit, hey?
Maybe.
I'm going to take that as a gentle yes. But kicking off our episode tonight will be our East Got Game headlines of the round. We've just finished round 6. Can't believe it's round 6 already. Probably going to say that for every round. But Lockie, take it away with our headlines of the week.
Oh, first headline of the week, and it stems from the game I called between Sutherland Sharks and the Newcastle Falcons on Saturday night. Will the real Newcastle Falcons please stand up? They're 3-5. They got smoked by Sutherland on Saturday night, and then went and beat Canberra on Sunday. So they're 3-5. Their wins are over Maitland, Canberra, and then Illawarra with Blanchfield.
That's huge.
Why do you do that for the rest of the game?
So, yeah, 3 really big teams they've managed to knock off at full strength when the opposition's been at full strength. Yeah, I think that's a legitimate question to ask the real Newcastle please stand up. What did you see in their game against Sutherland that was what was missing from that game against Sutherland that they then went and implemented the next day?
To be honest, I haven't watched the next day's game just yet, but it was funny at the start of the game because so Luke Jamison, Billy Fichetti, and Cooper Wilkes were off playing 3x3. So we had no Luke Jamison. And Jake and I were speaking about it before the game. No Luke Jamison. This is a chance for like Cherry, Beastie to just go to work against the Sutherland team that's going to be slightly smaller. But Sutherland just trotted out Jamison and Spurgeon and Gerlach and Noy. And then Connor Woodbridge had 14 points. And it turned out to not really matter all that much in the end at all, which I found really, really odd. But yeah, so what I thought would be an out that would help Newcastle a lot didn't really. I mean, to be fair to them, they stayed within 14 or 15 and for a long way, and Sutherland just blew it out in the end. But they gave up so many offensive rebounds, especially in the third and fourth quarters. I literally said these offensive rebounds are killing Newcastle. So I think there was 3 baskets in the space of a couple of minutes that the Sharks got off offensive rebounds that really put a gap between them. I was not expecting from a Newcastle team.
Yeah. And especially given it was in the third and fourth quarter, do you feel fatigue was at play there, or just, perhaps just not concentrating for whatever reason?
Yeah, I'm not sure about fatigue. I know you want to pace yourself for the big doubleheader, but I mean, I don't think so. But to be fair to them, they still got Leo O'Boyle to come back, so that'll be a big help. But yeah, I mean, they were down. They were slow out of the gates and then brought it back. Kouatnoy scored the first 12 points of the game, but then Matur Malawach also had 16 in the first quarter. So yeah, just inconsistent, I think, is the best way to describe them at the moment. But inconsistent, but dangerous.
Yeah, that's true. Probably unpredictable, perhaps. Inconsistency and dangerous is unpredictable.
Because they've got plenty of pieces, Cherry, Stevens, Kobe Shannon. Kobe Shannon, I think, relies under the radar in this league. I think he's a really good player. Beastie. And yeah, as I said, Malawach had 16 in the first quarter and didn't score another point for the rest of the game. So, but he averages 6 per game. So, you need someone else to go on with it. I think that was the thing. No one else really stepped up and went on with it and built on the foundation that he created.
And do you think those 3 wins that Newcastle have over the likes of, who was it, Maitland, Canberra and Illawarra, do you think that's going to kind of have an effect in the end result or the end ladder placings come the end of the season?
If they can put together some consistency, I think so, because that's 3 wins that probably not a lot of the other mid-pack teams around them are going to get. They could be the 3 wins that sneak them into the top 8 if they can turn it around, to be honest. They just need to, they need to start beating the teams they really should beat. Like they've got Hornsby this weekend, so they need to make, they need to make sure they win that. They've got Bankstown and Inner West the week after that. So Bankstown probably the worst time to get them, right? As Galloway's in and hitting his straps. But Inner West and Newcastle, both teams that need to kind of go up a gear, because I think Inner West have dropped a couple of games that they probably would think they shouldn't have as well.
Yeah, I think you're right. So just looking at the ladder after round 6 in the men's competition, Newcastle is still sitting 13th with that 3-5 record you mentioned earlier. Inner West Bulls are only just above them in 12th place with the same record, but only just above Newcastle based on the for and against points percentage. So, they're probably still a little bit of a distance from that top 8. But as we know in the East, anything can happen. So certainly not counting out either team just yet.
Anything can happen, and it usually does.
That's a guarantee.
The great Murray Walker, I believe, said that.
He's not wrong.
Yes, Murray Walker, the great Formula One commentator.
So what other headlines from round 6 do you have for us?
Well, I think we need to ask ourselves some questions about the Canberra Gunners because they lost both games this weekend to Newcastle, as we just mentioned, but they also lost to Maitland in the big rivalry. We talked about a couple of years ago. If they keep playing big games, it's going to become a rivalry, and now it's a rivalry. And they shot 34% from the field for the entire weekend, the Canberra Gunners. Against Maitland, Mayfield had 30 and Morrison had 10. Morrison was second leading scorer with 10 and they lost 86-72. And then against Newcastle, they shot 34% from the field. The big three, Mayfield, Morrison, and Tui combined for 55 points, but it took them 52 field goal attempts to get there. Against Newcastle, they won the turnover battle. They're not, coughing the ball up for fun. They just couldn't put the ball in the hoop. And from, last undefeated men's team, they've now slipped behind Centre of Excellence and Sutherland, and they've got to take on Illawarra, who should have Blanchfield back this coming weekend.
Yeah, Gunners finding themselves in a slightly precarious situation, which is a little bit unexpected. I definitely talk a lot about having top teams tested early in the season in preparation for the back end. Do you think perhaps this might be a little bit of a twist early in the season that the Gunners need to ensure their place in the top 4, as we've seen in since the inception of NBL 1 East?
I mean, a mistake's only a mistake if you don't learn from it. So, Pete Herrick's a very, very good coach. He'll go back, watch the film, sort out what they need to do. I'm sure it's just a bump in the road for them. Even if they fell to Illawarra this weekend, that wouldn't be horrendous. It'd be if they started slipping. They play Albury. So they've got Illawarra, then Albury-Wodonga, but then they've got Sutherland and COE, and then Manly in their next few games. So, yes, a lot of these are not losses that individually are horrible. If they lose to Sutherland, that's not horrible. They lose to COE, that's not horrible. They lose to Illawarra, that's not horrible. Lose to all three, that's kind of bad. Because then they've already racked up 5 losses and suddenly top 4 is looking a little iffy.
Yeah. It's the climb. It will be the climb by Miley Cyrus for them.
The climb by Miley Cyrus, love it.
Actually, you mentioned Albury. We actually had someone message us via Instagram today. Before we were hacked, I will say, asking about the new signing for the Bandits men. Is it Francis Wimanera, who played for Newcastle Falcons last season?
Yes, Francis Wimanera, Mulvill Hill. Yes.
So he's signed for the Bandits men, and this person has asked, I've noticed that Bandits have signed a new guard. I've also noticed that Jasper Rentoy didn't suit up the last game. Is that perhaps a replacement? Are they changing their roster? Is Jasper injured? What is the intel? Do you know anything, Lockie? Officially?
I do not know anything officially or unofficially. Only that Bandits have picked up a player who's already shown himself to be a pretty solid rotational player up at Newcastle last season. Yeah,
so I wonder as well, like the timing of it. I think it was a very well pointed out. I think it's a very good question to ask from this person via Instagram. So thank you for your question and bringing it to our attention. I think the devil is in the detail with the press release and the Instagram post of when they announced Francis is joining the Bandits. Because if you look quite far down in this description, it just says something along the lines of reshaping of the roster or trying to redirect our season, which I don't know if I'm reading too much into it, but that to me reads as possibly a replacement in terms of, hey, we've tried this, it's not working, we're going to try something else. And is it a little bit too convenient that Francis has joined and Jasper wasn't there? I don't know. Maybe I'm getting a little bit too demois about this and reading too much into it, but that's how I took it.
Yeah, it does. It does sound a little convenient, but reshaping the roster could just mean bringing a player in and shaking up the rotations a bit. Could be from
Correct.
here to here and anywhere in between.
Yeah. So I think that's what I'm suspecting, but definitely not confirmed. And Bandits are usually really, really good with being transparent with their fans and posting things in a timely manner on their socials about any changes. So maybe we might just have to keep an eye out for that.
Definitely.
And have you got any more headlines from the NBL 1 East round 6, Lockie?
I think we need to mention the three big names that made their debut. Two that have been a long time coming, and one that was a slightly newer addition. Of course, we'll work our way up. So we'll start with Austin Patterson coming off the bench for North on debut. 22 points in 28 minutes for the Bears. 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals. Shot 7 of 15 from the field, and the Bears got up 97-86. So that was quite a way to announce yourself to the league. And of course, Bawali Bales, we know what he can do, and he did it. 26 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists, 10 of 22 from the field. Got the Comets over the line, 80-65 over the Manly Warringah Sea Eagles. But you already know who the next one is because he won NBL 1 East Player of the Week with his 37 points, 13 rebounds, 3 assists, 4 steals, 2 blocks, 50% from the field, 107-87 win over the Albury-Wodonga Bandits. It's Jalen Galloway. What a way to announce yourself to the league. We know what he's capable of, but still to just come in and absolutely mash like that's pretty impressive.
Has there ever been a bigger debut in the East than that? I'm going to say, well.
I mean, apart maybe like if you think back to like the inaugural day of the season, did like someone go absolutely off kind of thing, but there wouldn't be many bigger.
No, I don't think. I think that's that's definitely up there.
Definitely
with,
is.
Yeah.
And just announcing yourself like that and to come in with the, Bankstown have been treading water, same with like with Comets, they've just been doing enough to keep themselves in contention until their big name arrives. And then both Bawali and Jalen just come in and knock it out of the park first up.
Yeah, huge. We love to see it. We love to see it in the East. This round 6 has been a real shake-up. I mean, Kawat Noyes, big numbers. Jalen Galloway's big numbers. The next headline we're obviously going to talk about as well, adding to the huge narrative at the moment in NBL 1 East. But also, after round 6, a lot of shake-ups, a lot of, we won't say upsets, but a lot of surprising results. Teams losing, Canberra Gunners losing in a weekend is surprising. Some teams getting 1-1. Like it's been quite a dramatic round 6.
It really, really has. And I mean, and like you look at the ladder now, and especially on the men's side, just how many teams are sitting there at 4-4, 3-4, 3-5, like 7th to 13th. There's a win between the lot of them. And, Comets have got to play Sutherland, Illawarra have got to play Canberra. They're one result from either being right up there or being dragged back down into that mid-pack. So it's very, very interesting.
And one more headline just before I'm going to throw. So we've got our first proper fan question live on our YouTube stream, Lockie, and it's directed to Fat You. So just hold on tight. Before we get to that question, it's a very good question too. We just want to also mention that the Newcastle Falcons women and the North Bears women continue to remain undefeated in the NBL 1 competition. And I say NBL 1, period.
Is it NBL 1 overall now?
Or
no, there might be a couple in West.
I'm sorry. There's actually also Geelong women are also
Ah,
still undefeated in the South, but there's definitely the only two teams in the East that are now
yes.
undefeated. Both teams 8-0, which is a hell of a start to the season. And I would say they're probably one of very few. So I think that list that came out last week of the undefeated teams has been reduced. I'm going to say they're two of the, say, maybe four teams in the competition now that are undefeated.
Yeah, I think. Well, the problem is North started now, so they've got teams that are like 2-0. They've got a leg up.
Yeah,
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 North. Yeah, it's easy to be undefeated when you've only played one or 2 weeks.
yeah, yeah. That's true. North, NBL One North perhaps doesn't count at the moment. Yes, that's true. That's true.
But,
Next round, the North Bears women play the Center of Excellence. So that will be really exciting. A really good test to see if they can keep that winning streak going. And then Newcastle and North play each other 2 rounds later in round 9. So that will be a really good test for both teams as well.
yeah, that is going to be must-watch viewing.
And Newcastle play Hornsby Ku-ring-gai away as well. And then Bankstown and Inner West in round 8 in preparation for that game against North. So keep an eye out for them.
You don't want to be Mike Tyson versus Buster Douglas and lose before the big one. So they'll still have to turn up and, play their best, because I'm sure everyone's itching to knock off both of these teams before that round 9 game.
Yeah. And I'm going to pretend I know who that other guy is that you referenced.
He's the guy that beat Mike Tyson in the Tokyo Dome. He was 42-1. I'll have to send you the 30 for 30 link.
Please do. He should be a household name then.
Yes.
He probably is, just not in my household. All right, on to this question. Our first legitimate question on YouTube. Here we go. I'm going to pop it on screen, Lockie. It's to you. It's from our lovely friend, Dean Andrews. Now, for those who don't know, Dean Andrews is also a basketball journalist from Victoria. He has his own website and blog where he publishes a lot of great articles about some of our local legends, especially including the WNBL. He's also the guy that you go to for any kind of confirmation of a historical fact in the WNBL. Dean Andrews would definitely know before anyone at BA will know.
Yes, he's 100%.
100%. Dean Andrews is the guy you need to follow on socials for the facts.
For anyone who's a cross-sport fan, if you're an A-League soccer fan and you know Andy Howe, Dean Andrews is like the WNBL version.
Yeah, he's your guy. He's your guy. So he's saying, congratulations, Lockie, on reaching 100 games as NBL One commentator when the Sharks host the Comets on the Saturday, the 17th of May. See, he remembers. He remembered from our chat last week. What have been some of your highlights during the journey to this milestone?
Well, obviously national, like doing the inaugural women's grand final and the inaugural nationals, because that's just something no one can ever take away from you, to say you were the first to do something. So those will always be very special memories. I commentated both with you, Squin. That was amazing. I guess just some of the players you get to commentate. I commentated LJ dropping 50 at Sutherland Basketball Stadium. Can you imagine, like, when Rach Herrick dragged me out of the bar line at a WNBL game and took like 10 minutes to convince me to jump on, that I would end up doing something like that. So, and honestly, like, there's individual game highlights like the LJ 50 piece, both grand finals I've done, the nationals, just some of the great players. I had to commentate on Lauren Nicholson, she was a DP for the Flames the first ever time I went to a WNBL game. And now I commentate on her, well, last season every week and hopefully some point this season. But honestly, the highlights include commentating with Jake every week and watching and listening to his improvement. Because he's done more Sutherland home games than I have. Because I had COVID one round.
Oh.
At his improvement and honestly being down there with Chris and Scott and Zach and Jake, Ella, and whoever else joins in for the crew on a particular day, it's just the best thing every week. And now at Comets, I get the same. Commentating with Freddie was great. Now I brought Will on. Like Will Constantinidis just messaged me out of the blue and said, "Is there a spot for me? I live near Hills. I live near Inner West." I'm like, mate, Hills and Inner West, they're tough places to get a spot in at commentary. But why don't you try Comets when I'm not there? And I like the idea of paying it forward. And actually, for my birthday, I got a commentary headset.
Hey!
So now, when I'm at Comets, we can have a third. So any players, anyone wants to jump on, be our third. If we've got a spare spot, hit me up. I'd love to get players on. We're going to have a player on for my 100th game, actually.
Oh, okay. Watch this space.
Yes, a player I've had on before. But back to the highlights. Probably the Nationals, the grand final, LJ's 50 piece. I just like watching players come through the ranks and improve. And some of them go away and come back. Like they go to college or they go interstate and they come back, and just watching them improve. Like, I got so many I can mention, but I'm going to mention her because it's kind of in the memory. Sophie Brennan. Just from the regular season to her performance in the grand final to how good she looked on the weekend. It's just players like that you just watch get progressively better. And it's happened so many times. You get to call it, and it's just amazing. I just love being able to bring the action to people every week. Because I've been Lockie France, and you have been amazing.
Now, for those that don't know, that is Lockie's signature sign-off for any game that he commentates. So that's not out of context, out of the blue. That was perfect. But yeah, very well done, mate. Congratulations on your upcoming 100 games. And like I said, if anyone from Comets or Sutherland or surrounds sees Lockie, at least shake his hand and congratulate him, please. And if you can, at least shout him a couple of bottles of Dare Ice coffee, a bag of snakes. I was going to say a Coles cake, but I don't know if I've actually seen you eat a Coles cake. But those two are a surefire bet.
Those two are sure things because I turned up the Nationals every day with them.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, all right, this is, I took a mental note. If I ever need to buy Lockie something, it's those things.
It is.
And now I'm sharing it with everyone else. But also, your birthday present is something to share with other people. And I think that's a representation of the kind of giving person you are, getting a birthday present that you can share with others.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, very great question. Great answer. Thank you again, Dean. And for those that still use X, or formerly known as Twitter, please go and follow Dean at Dean Andrews 7777. He also has a website called Milestones and Misses where he posts a lot of cool articles. He's just like the nicest dude ever. Great insights, great stats and facts that he's always willing to share with everyone. Great focus on especially Australian women's basketball. Absolute legend. Thank you, Dean. Thank you, Lockie, for that great answer.
Thank you, Squint.
No worries, bud. Least I could do. But tell me, are you ready to get cracking into the Eastcott game of the week?
I am always ready to talk about both of these particular teams, really.
Yeah, get your notes in order. I see you getting organized.
I have my headline notes, so now I need my game notes.
Very good. Very good. I love the preparation. Expect nothing less, though, to be fair. So our Eastcott game of the week for round 6 was the Maitland Mustangs versus the Canberra Nationals in the women's competition. This one was a really, really close race. Two tightly matched teams in both level of talent and I think kind of like how they've built their roster as well. So that already made up for an interesting matchup. Maitland winning this one 75-68 on their home court at Federation Centre, winning the fourth quarter 20-10 to really clinch the win and just sprinting on home. The Stangers, which the Stangers, as the Stangers would do, I guess.
That's the thing. I was watching the game, so I knew the result, and I was like, when do they take the lead? When do they take the lead? When do they take the lead? And it's like, oh, okay, now they've taken the lead.
Yeah. It really kind of crept up. It was a pretty steady gallop, and it turned into a sprint.
Nice Mustang reference.
Yeah, I was close before. I had to get it out there. But yeah, so 75-68. Maitland notching up another win. Fairly spread scoring and stats lines from the Stangers as well as the Canberra Nationals. But from the tip-off, talk me through this game, Lockie.
Well, it was really a game of two halves, and I don't mean that as in Canberra won the first half and then Maitland blitzed the second half. It was like Maitland had 30 points in the paint in the first half and 12 points in the paint in the second half. And Canberra a little bit more even, but to go from absolutely unstoppable scoring in the paint to barely being able to put the ball in the paint was just two diametrically opposed things that I think were probably a case of a lot of chat in the locker room at halftime. But in the opening quarter, in the very early stages, what I noticed is Maitland, they look happy to move the ball. Like they're safe in the knowledge that they have so many players who can do so many different things that they know someone will always be able to pull something out of the bag. And that's not a bailout. That is there's always someone good enough that's going to have the ball in their hands and find an opportunity every play. So yes, they might have got deep in the shot clock on occasion, but it always looked measured and patient and like something was brewing, which not every team does when they get deep in the shot clock.
Like intention. Everything had intention.
Everything had intention. Whereas, I mean, Canberra, they play quick, and why not with that roster they've got? They don't just play quick in terms of getting the ball up court. They look to find matchups where they win on speed. And I think that's why Abby Solway had such a day out, is because she's quick off the mark. They found her some matchup. And this happened probably throughout the game until it started falling away, especially in the first half. Loved getting on, like just being in the corner, coming off curl, off the handoff. There's a couple of times she was on, who had played her guarding her and just got half a step, and then she was absolutely gone. And I think that was real. I think that was one of the best things Canberra did in the early stages, was just focus on using their speed when getting to the cup. Because you look at those points in the paint, and especially the shooting percentages were really high as well. Probably looking directly at the stats, your first thought is, okay, people are posting up, getting in the paint and shooting from 3 feet. It's like, oh, actually, no, it's probably more, and definitely was more people driving into the paint with good matchups and being able to lay the ball home.
Yeah, I thought it was it was really interesting where both teams for a lot of the game, I feel like, were mirroring each other. It looks like they were both playing with very similar team concepts. Like both teams had really great ball movement, team concepts, floor spots. Everyone looked really in sync of what they were running. There were very few possessions from either team where you didn't know what they were running, or you could see people were confused. Everyone was very well organized and focused on the same thing. sometimes at the start of the game, particularly, that read to me as though like everything was coming a little bit too easy for each team as well. Similar when we spoke about COE against Hornsby in our last episode, where in that first quarter, COE could just kind of did whatever they liked until Hornsby changed their defense and disrupted everything. I felt like a lot in this game that both teams were just able to run most of their sets with ease and get the open shots they wanted with ease, despite the on-ball defense being quite good. But I think at times the defense on both teams was a little bit too reactive rather than being proactive. Both teams as well getting caught up in that second line of defense where there's a lot of backdoor cuts and a couple of plays where there was absolutely no one on split line. So it's just really interesting how both teams had so many similarities. It was interesting. The stuff that Campbell were running is stuff that's been out there for yonks. Like I was watching some of those plays and I was like, oh no, I've run that before and I've done this before. And it's some really like, I mean, I'm pretty sure we still even ran it when I played for Crusaders under Eddie Whitmore before we had, when it was still Waratah. I was like, oh, that's what, I can't remember what we used to call it. But yeah, I kind of could pick what was happening. So it was kind of cool to see those types of plays coming back. But it just shows that like when you execute your timing properly and have people in the right places in those plays that may be old, it can still be effective. So, for example, when they had Abby Kettles down in the low post in the catch, just waiting for the timing of that back screen to get McAllister open for an easy layup was great. I think what changed for me, I think the biggest change for me happened in the fourth quarter. Otherwise, for the rest of the game, I think it was pretty free-flowing and a good exchange of baskets from a fan point of view where I'm like, this is entertaining. This is pleasantly entertaining.
Yes.
But there wasn't
a lot
of
watching
change.
This game.
Yeah, I like watching this game. It was almost like watching your favorite TV show. You know how there's that kind of growing trend online where it's like people start rewatching their favorite TV shows to help them like mentally or emotionally like regulate because it's familiar. We know it. It's familiar and we like it and we're comfortable with it and it helps me like feel nice. This is kind of one of those games where I'm like, I've seen these things before. There's a pleasant exchange of baskets. Everyone's doing something good. It's a very pleasant game to watch. I only really saw some change in the game in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, it kind of, I mean, it was by far the lowest scoring. Well, it wasn't the lowest scoring quarter of the game overall, but it had Canberra only scoring 10 points, which I think is probably the most noticeable thing. Main thing I noticed at the start of the fourth quarter was that Maitland opened with 3 3-point attempts on their first 3 possessions, which kind of diverged away from, well, I mean, they only had, I think, 17 3-point attempts for the game. Was that Maitland? Yeah, they only had 17 3-point attempts for the game, and 3 of them came in a 2-minute stretch to open the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and I would think 17 points traditionally for Maitland with that roster. And I know that Will also likes coaching the style of threes or layups. 17's kind of unexpectedly low. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Shaq was 1 of 8. Miller was 3 of 6, and then Newbert, Hunter, and Plater had one attempt apiece.
So yeah, at least the main 3-point shooters were shooting.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, only 4 of 17. So I think in the focus on the inside game and getting the ball through Newbert and Hunter, and perhaps being more aggressive on dribble penetration. Like you could hear Coach Granger in the background just yelling, 2 feet, 2 feet, 2 feet. So there's obviously a very clear focus on getting 2 feet into paint.
Yeah, James and Garen, pay the man. He's giving you free. I am giving you this for free.
2 feet. All right, we're just going to randomly shout our favorite NBL 1 East podcast in a game now. Are we just yelling out 2 feet, 2 feet? Anyway, we got digress. But yeah, 3-point attempts for Canberra was 25. Bourne, Williams, McAllister, and Solway shooting most of them. And they were only 7 from 25. But I still feel like they were pretty good shot selections despite not going in most of the time. Anyway.
The only surprising number there is that Jazz Boutsos only had 2 in 19 minutes of action. I guess then you've got Mickey Williams taking 5 and Abby Solway taking 8. So, kind of balancing things out.
Yeah, I think it's similar to what you mentioned about Maitland, how the Maitland roster have all very versatile and very capable athletes on the offensive end. I think Canberra can be seen as something similar where you can easily slot in, Solway, Bourne, Williams, or Boutsos to be your main 3-point shooters for a certain game, depending on who's open and who's hot. And, the game plan is still going to be followed.
Yeah. And I mean, especially they had both Solway and Bourne bringing the ball up. There was no real designated, I guess, overwhelmingly primary ball handler, whether it was Bourne or Solway. It didn't really trend one way or the other massively, I don't think.
No, and that's obviously something they've consistently worked on and all agreed to, because it was really nice to see sometimes when, Canberra obviously always looking to run as well, getting transition buckets when they can. McAllister had some really nice rebounds and just baseball passes down the court to find someone open in transition. But then just as easily enough, as soon as it was in either Bourne or Solway's hands, everyone knew where they were going. Everyone was in order. They really didn't waste a lot of time getting organized, which I thought you should kind of expect at this level, but it doesn't always happen like that. So I think that was a really good strength for the Nationals in this game.
I think it actually reminds me of the first ever NBL1 game I called between Newcastle and Sutherland. Is that in that game, there was 2 distinct strategies, whether Kingham was bringing the ball up, whether Munger was bringing the ball up. Sorry, not the first ever game I called. The first ever game of after the first game of the 2023 season, it would have been, because it was the game I got the photo with Munger after the episode we did. So, yes, but it was a distinct strategy because depending on which one of them is on the ball, it's 2 very different players kind of thing. And it's kind of the same with Bourne and Solway. If Bourne's off the ball, she can play on the perimeter, or she can post up if she really has to. But you're not going to throw Abby in the paint when Callie's bringing the ball up. So when you see who's on the ball, what your role is going to be. It's fairly delineated.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I have to say as well, this is probably one of the best games I've seen Abby Solway play in a little while. Yeah, she, especially compared to the last time I saw her play, she was with Darwin Salties up here in North last season. And unfortunately, just kind of getting left out of the rotation for a little while as the season went on. But it's just really nice to see her back playing. She just had a bit more of a sense of ease. Sometimes I think I've seen her play before. She's quite tense, and you can tell she's kind of trying to overthink what she's doing. But she just looks so much at ease this game, and everything. The game just came to her naturally. She was making some really great reads. And making things look so easy. So it was really, really nice to see her playing like that again. And she shot 50% and had 19 points. So
she was really, really. There weren't many moments in the game where I was like, "Oh, Abby, what are you doing?" or anything like that. And that it comes back to, you mentioned before, the team's running plays, is that when I where to pause and rewind and rewinding, that's what we used to do with VCRs, by the way.
Yeah.
When I would pause and rewind and watch a play again, most of the time it would be, "Oh, that was a good offensive play that caused the defense to X," rather than going, "Defense, what are you doing? You made the play happen for them." Which I have done a lot of this season, watching players going, "Defense, you just gave them the read." Whereas here, the offense was making the defense do what they wanted more often.
Well, yeah, even the last game we reviewed, the COE Hornsby men's game last week, a lot of it was like defense. You were overplaying and gave that offense the read. Like you kind of just either parted the seas for a drive or made it or something. Yeah, I totally see what you mean. The offense was certainly dictating a lot more. I'm going to say for both teams, for 3.5 quarters of this game, everything was more dictated by the offense until it changed for me in the last 5 minutes, and that's when I saw the most dramatic change. Like there was certainly little changes from both teams during the games, but the most dramatic change I saw was in the last 5 minutes, and that was from Maitland.
Okay, go on.
But I was going to say before I get to that, I feel like I'm skipping ahead though. I feel like I'm skipping ahead. Yeah. So we'll circle back to that.
Okay.
But yeah, going into the half, it pretty much looked like Canberra was still ahead only by 6 points. So a decent buffer to go into halftime with, but certainly gettable for Maitland. And then, Maitland came out and won the third quarter, 15-12. I felt like each team in that third quarter, like we'll hear later, I guess from our special guest without giving a little bit away. Yeah, both teams did kind of come out a little bit flat in that third quarter, a little bit sleepy.
Yeah, it never felt like Canberra were going to break it wide open from 6 points up. But by the same token, it also never felt like Maitland were going to run over the top of them. And I think that's probably the best way to put it, is that it didn't look like either team was really taking a stranglehold on the game. You run a decent play. I mean, there's not a lot of scoring, but you would never, to put it in tennis terms, you'd never consolidate the break. You'd never score, stop, score, and really either extend your lead or bring the deficit right back. I mean, I think the defense in the paint and just preventing people from getting decent looks in the paint really stepped up, which was exemplified by, pretty sure it was Sophie Williams putting a monster bump on Callie Bourne as she drove to the basket in the middle of the third quarter. That was big, but I just in general, I think both teams went in at halftime and probably had a pretty frank discussion about preventing the opposition from driving into the paint in the second half.
Yeah,
it was the as I said earlier, it was probably one of the primary methods of scoring, and if either team could shut it down and maintain the advantage, it probably would have sent them on their way.
Yeah, I agree. That's kind of what added to the whole "this is a pleasant game" kind of attitude for me, was that, oh yes, everyone's getting a drive and everyone's making stuff happen and everything looked good. But I was then starting to wonder how much of this is just the defense kind of letting this happen a little bit too, playing too passive. Maybe there needs to be a few more bumps. Maybe there. I know that Maitland did try and do a couple of switching in the second half on certain situations, but sometimes that just meant that the likes of Carly McAllister are going to have a mismatch on the switch, and you don't want to be mismatched on Carly McAllister when she's
such a tough player to guard. I mean, probably the only player on that Maitland team that matches her for speed and size is Hunter, because she showed she's got a step on Newbert. She's obviously got the size on just about everyone else, except maybe, well, no, not except. Probably Miller could affect her shot with the length, but maybe that's about it. I'd still back McAllister in the battle. So, when you start switching, as you said, you risk the mismatch.
Yeah, because McAllister has the foot speed, the agility, and of like a guard. But then the height and the length of a center. So, it's very, very, very difficult to guard. I think Mila did a pretty good job on her, though, in that third quarter in patches when she had to switch on her.
Yeah. Oh, she did. I mean, Mila finished with 4 blocks. So
she did.
Yeah, she did. I mean, Kylie McAllister, that 3x3 skill set, you got to be able to do everything.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just a perfect player type for 3x3. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no one else. I mean, Canberra only had 2 blocks in total, and here's Mila having 4 on her own.
It's just a luxury to have a guard with that length.
So for me now, getting into the biggest change and going back to what you said before about how you feel like neither of these teams started to take control of this game, really had a chokehold on it to try and influence the game into their favor. For me, that only really started in about, say, I'm going to say, be generous, say the last 6 minutes of the game. Maybe even a tiny bit earlier, actually. Probably just about 7 to 8 minutes, say, from the fourth quarter. This is when I feel like Maitland started to play with a little bit more desperation and hustle on the defensive end. And all of a sudden, they're starting to get these really great defensive stops in a row. There was, I think, one of Mila's blocks. There was a couple of situations where I can't remember if it's Mila or if it's Sydney Hunter also blocked Solway's, 3-point attempt in the corner. There just seemed to be a little bit more hustle, a little bit more desperation from Maitland, where they put all these defensive stops in a row as individuals and then as a team, sometimes doubling from the split line. And then they started to convert those stops into scores. And that's when they started to shut down on this game. All of a sudden, they're starting to get a little bit more momentum. They start taking a little bit more control, converting those stops. And then that's how Maitland found themselves ahead. And to their credit, they were able to maintain it and get the win. That's honestly, for me, the biggest change in this game.
It's funny because that's what I wrote down. I wrote Maitland guarding Solway better. Then I wrote Miller's length got her one of those blocks on McAllister. And then Shaq had that pass for Lexi Plater on the opposite. I think she might have almost been in the corner for the 3. And that's when they started getting on a roll. And pretty much you've just written down exactly, you just said exactly what I've written down, but a lot better. And then Abby Kettles fouled out not long after that.
Yeah, I think she fouled out with a good... It
was 5:33 left.
5:33. Yeah. 5:33.
And she knew it. As soon as the whistle blew, she just walked off court. She was like, sometimes you just know.
Yeah, that's right. Sometimes it really sucks for her, but also we're not basketball nerds to know the timestamp of when someone gets fouled off. But yeah, it really limited her foul trouble. Really limited how much she could impact the game because she only played just under 18 minutes due to the foul trouble. But while she was on in that 18 minutes, she had 3 rebounds and 4 assists and 2 steals. So I think that she definitely, her absence was definitely felt by the Nationals in the stretch of this game. So that's really, really unfortunate. And I think sometimes as well, some of her fouls were out of circumstance of covering for someone else. I think a couple of them. So that's really unfair.
Yeah, that is. Yeah. And that's, as you said earlier, teams running good plays, gets the defense out of sync. But I will say I did like Elise Finney stepping up because I thought she stepped into that kind of bigger role, both physically and in terms of minutes. She set a lot of good screens. I sent you that photo before we went on of Bourne and McAllister. It was just a screen at the top of the arc by Finney, and Bourne and McAllister just ran. It was Newbert and someone else just crushing Elise Finney as she's setting a perfect screen, and Bourne goes straight to the basket. I thought she was good. She had 5 points in 22 minutes and 3 rebounds, but she was just about everywhere off the ball though.
All the things you can't find on a stat sheet that are equally as important.
That's right.
I also quite like the look of Mickey Williams, who I haven't seen her play before. and she played 20 minutes, had 7 points, 3 rebounds, but also just a really solid, consistent role player for the Nationals. Always in the right spots, taking the right shots, doing what she could on defense. Yeah, I really like her game so far. So I'm keen to see how much she develops.
Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of her
yeah.
either. I know she went off to college like a good few years ago now, like around maybe around COVID. I don't know if that affected her time of going or how long she was over there. But yeah, I haven't seen a whole lot of her. I've seen bits and pieces. But yeah, I think she slotted in pretty well. Just one of those, rotational guards that are just, as you mentioned earlier, that list of guards that Canberra have.
Yeah. And then we need to circle back and talk about Alexis Plater as well. I mean, she's someone that
we always need to talk about Alexis Plater.
Yeah. She's someone that you've mentioned since the start of season 3 of East Got Game that you were very excited about. And I think perhaps in a similar way where someone like Finney had stepped up when Kettles was in foul trouble. Looks like Casey Newbert was also in a bit of foul trouble. She had,
Yeah, she had 4.
She had 4.
And then Hannah Fox had 4 in 11 minutes as well. So where Fox would come in and spell Newbert, you're sort of juggling. But I think Newbert's 4th was about 4 minutes left in the game. So they were able to get a bit more time out of it. But then you've got Fox getting 4 in 11 minutes, which is tough for the player who's supposed to be spelling Newbert.
Yeah, that's right. And so Plater able to slot in and pick up some extra minutes here or there. Ended up playing 27 minutes, 43 seconds, 18 points and 5 rebounds. Like she's, I mean, another Mustangs pun, but she's a real dark horse in this team.
She is she's New South Wales under-20s national champion. And the reason I'm so high on Alexis is I commentated her in Waratah League semi-finals last year, and she dropped the best part of 30 on Maitland. Maitland won that game, but yes.
Yeah.
And now she still travels down from Coffs Harbour because she's still finishing year 12 and goes down. It drives down from Coffs Harbour to Maitland, drops 18, goes home, and goes back to school on Monday.
Jeez, while you're young, works while you're young.
But 7 of 9 from 2-point range, and she's strong. She's got a good step on her. She's just good all-round player, and only going to improve. So as I said, she's still only in year 12.
So a way too early prediction to say she's the rookie of the year for the women's competition.
Do we even give it rookie of the year?
No. I think it's youth player of the year, though.
Oh, youth player of the year. Oh, there's so many. Every year I look and think, how are you still eligible for youth league?
Yeah. I agree.
Like, even players who aren't playing in it that are eligible. Like apparently, I think Zoe Miller's still eligible for youth league. Emily Garland and Jordan Dewhurst are still out there every week doubling up.
Wow.
Kids.
That's
just how young some of them start in youth league and then NBL 1. It's like, how are you still eligible for youth league? It's like, oh, well, because you started when you were 17.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll do it. That will definitely do it. But yeah, other outstanding performers from this game. So Mila Waskovic ended with 17 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, and 4 blocks. Shaq Riley had 14 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3 steals. So just sprinkling a little bit of everything with Shaq. And as mentioned before, Alexis Plater had 18 and 5 in just under 28 minutes. And for Canberra, Abby Solway in 33 minutes, she had 19 points and 3 rebounds. Carly McAllister played nearly the full game at 37 minutes and 11 seconds and had 16 points, 13 rebounds, 2 assists, and 4 steals. And then Callie Bourne had 15, 8, 2, and 2. Were there any other outstanding stats for this game that you feel like may have affected the overall outcome or performances for each team?
Should I mention the free throw numbers, Squin?
You know what? As soon as I finished that sentence, I was like, oh, I haven't spoken
And
about
I
free
will
throws
mention
yet.
that both Canberra missed some down the stretch that could have tied the game, and then Hunter went 0 of 2 with a minute to play.
Oh.
So Maitland had the better percentage. Neither team was good. 61.9% for Maitland, 13 of 21 to 7 of 14 for Canberra. Neither team blameless here down the stretch by any stretch. Because Sid Hunter could have made it 72-68 with a minute to play and missed both.
Ladies, I'm going to chew you out as much as I chewed out the men last week. Please get in the gym, practice your free throws.
Yes.
Maitland
one stat I will mention is Shaq Riley was 1 of 8 from 3-point range. And that one was the one to put them up 74-68. It's Shaq. As I said to you, the other day, if Shaq smiles at you away from the court, you're about to have the best day of your life. If Shaq smiles at you on the court, you're about to have the worst day of your life.
She's going to nail a 3 and say, good night. Yeah. I'll see you at the bar upstairs.
Yeah, pretty much.
But that free throw count, percentages aside, Maitland's still shooting 7 more than Canberra. And I think sometimes that in itself in a tight game can have a little bit of an influence. But 7 from 14, ladies. Definitely room for improvement there.
Definitely. And no one shot more than 5, so you can't really, hang it on anyone keeping the number up or bringing the number down. Everyone just sort of had a middling day.
Middling day. Any final thoughts on this game, Lockie, before we move on to the next segment?
My main thought is that Maitland just keep winning the games that they're supposed to win, or get other games against the mid-pack teams that they need to win. More to the point. The two they've lost against teams well up the table. I think it's Newcastle and Albury, the 2 teams they've lost to. What are you going to do there? 6 wins, all against, and it's gotten to the point where they're not just winning the battle in the mid-pack, they've separated themselves from that mid-pack. And to be 6-2, they'll have some tough games. I think they got Manly coming up. They've got some other tough games. I think that their schedule trends harder in the back end, and that's why it's so important for them to get. They got this win, and then they pulled out that win against Crew that they going into the fourth quarter. I don't think they had any earthly right to be winning that, but they pulled it out in the back end. Sorry. I know you're wearing your Crusaders long sleeve today.
That's okay. We've got to own it. We've got to own it.
But that's the thing. And they've 6-2 done the heavy lifting in the early part of the season, set themselves up really well. Canberra, not a result that they would have hoped for, obviously, but all is obviously not lost. And I mean, as you said, Abby Solway, one of the better games we've seen from her. Plenty of players put decent outings together. Just didn't quite all come together down the stretch. They were, 2 points down with they had a chance to tie it with less than a minute left. But by the same token, they actually didn't score a point for the last couple of minutes. But on such small things do games swing.
Yeah, so it makes me kind of wonder, Maitland at the end of that game, as we talked about, changing their defense, playing with a lot more desperation. Had they kind of brought that a little bit earlier in the game, I think they perhaps could have taken control of the game a lot earlier and maybe given themselves a little bit more of a secure win in the end if it was going to be trending the same way. But Maitland, they're currently 4th on the ladder. They've played 8 games. Some of the other teams have only played 7 so far, but they're 6-2, and they're even one above Albury Wodonga Bandits just based on point percentage. So I think they've definitely gotten better at closing out games compared to the last 2 seasons of the Stingers. I think that's been probably the biggest difference. They've made some roster changes. They've added Newbert and Miller's come back, and that's definitely a massive boost overall. But I think a big difference is that they look a lot more organized. One, which I expect from someone like Coach Granger. But two, they're able to now close out games. There were so many games in the last 2 seasons, still when they had Hunter, Riley, Washington, where they were really, really close and they just couldn't close out games. They just couldn't finish. So now they're able to do that. I think that's a massive difference from the last couple of seasons. But yeah, on the ladder, they're 4th on the ladder. They do play Manly away next round. And then they play Penrith at home in round 8, which is another one they should probably get. And then round 9, they have a double header, Hornsby away and Norths at home. So I can see them going 2-2.
That's the thing. I was looking through their schedule, and I can see them getting to 12 or 13 wins. Maybe they'll surprise me and get more than that. But that was, kind of looking and going, oh, what if they get this one, but then they don't get that one? What if they go 1-1 against these two teams, kind of thing. But I'm going to say they're in a very good spot, and these teams actually play each other again on the final day of the season.
Cool. So Canberra will have a great opportunity to get the split at home, which I'm sure that they'd be very, very keen to get, and they would have gone through a lot more trials and tribulations.
We mentioned their men's team's upcoming schedule, and the women have got Illawarra, Albury-Wodonga, Sutherland, COE, Manly, Penrith, Crew across their next 5 weeks. So some tough games. A couple there that they have to, they pull it out against Illawarra. Sutherland struggling a bit at the moment. We'll see who's back by then. Not for show. I actually have no idea. Don't worry. That's funny. I saw a piece of paper with the team list on it that said soon next to Lauren Nicholson's name. There's one thing wrong with the word soon. It's a relative term.
Yeah. But just enough to keep us interested.
Yes. And they should, they would want to get over Penrith and probably Crew as well. You've got to put all those together. We'll see. Definitely, both teams still right in the mix. You're not going to write anyone off after one game, after losing by 7 points that they could have just as easily won.
Yeah, correct. So, Canberra Nationals are currently sitting at 10th place with a win-loss record of 3-5. Above them is the Sydney Comets, also on 3-5. And in 8th position is Hornsby Ku-ring-gai Spiders with 3-4. So, it's super close. Penrith is just under them with 3-6. So, that kind of bottom middle end of the table is getting a bit messy so far. I can see Canberra going 50-50 as well in the next 5 weeks of games that you mentioned. But can't really see if that's going to put them up or down because it all depends on every other result. So.
It really does. Yeah, I think King's birthday weekend. I think we have the weekend off on King's birthday. I think that's when I might get the old spreadsheet out.
Whoop! You have it off. We don't have it off because we don't have that public holiday up here. Yeah. Oh well.
That's you don't have King's birthday weekend because you're Queensland.
Yeah, maybe. All right, so that was our EGG game of the week. Maitland Mustangs, Canberra Nationals women. Again, Maitland winning that one at home. Before we get into our interview, we're going to showcase our good eggs of the week. This goes to someone, either a team or an individual in the men's and women's competition for an outstanding performance for any reason that we like. Now, Lockie, you had the men's competition for good egg of the week.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty good one. I would say.
Pretty good
It's
one.
a top shelf Darrell Lee egg in the peak of Easter, kind of good.
It is good. It's. I mean, yeah, a little bit of Sutherland home cooking, but it's got to be Kawat Noi. Yeah. Okay. So, yes, he dropped 40, and he scored the first 12 points of the game, but he also bought tickets in the under 16 boys. Is it under 16 or under 18? Under 18 boys were doing a halftime raffle for fundraising. He bought tickets and won the raffle. But more to the point, he bought tickets in the raffle before the game. And so great to see from the big name player. So, yes, dropped 40, first 12 points of the game. Absolutely lit it up. And then after I posted how much of a privilege it was to, call his game on Insta, he sent me a message and said thanks. That was very nice. So, yeah, great to see. From, Kawat, obviously, from Newcastle, so I'm sure wanted to put up a big game against the Falcons, and he certainly did that. So that's my good egg of the week.
What did he win in the raffle? What was first prize? That's what I want to know.
Carry-on suitcase. Which, unfortunately, we drive everywhere in East. We're not like the North where you fly to games.
But, he's a, he might have some kind of
use an NBL
lovely
season.
Yeah, NBL season or lovely off-season holiday. He might need to take some brand new carry-on luggage. You never know. He's a bit of a jet setter, a bit of a baller.
And apparently someone in Miles Cherry's family also bought tickets in that raffle and won a Nintendo Switch.
Oh, that's awesome. Give me a Switch any day.
Yeah.
Damn, that's a pretty good raffle. Luggage and a Switch. Turn up, Sutherland Sharks.
Yeah, we got some pretty good donations. No idea who they were from, but yeah, pretty good donations. Yeah, that's my good egg. And also a secondary shout out to Alex Clinton from Newcastle for sharing I really like the commentary I did of his step back three, so I shared a clip of it and he shared it on Insta.
Very nice. I will have to say as well that poor Kawat Noi received one of our spam messages this afternoon, and he even wrote back saying, "Yep, I got you." Like he was gonna vote for us.
Fortunately, I was looking at my phone.
Yeah, and you're like, no, it's a scam. Don't do it. But what a nice guy. Also, blindly supporting a random link sent in a DM. Very good. Oh wait, I don't think I ended up. Oh yes, I did decide on my.
You wrote one down and then you was like, I think I've done that person.
Yeah, one of us has done. I think you have perhaps already had done that person. I guess technically we can do two, but let's try and spread the love just a little bit. My good egg of the week from the women's competition is Eliza Jane, aka Muffy Loader from the Central Coast Crusaders. I think we mentioned last episode or the episode before when we touched on the Crusaders women about their particular roles and what's happening with their scoring and how we know that Muffy can shoot the ball and she can be a great scorer, but perhaps in a couple of seasons in North, her roles change to more distributor, organizer, anchor, and maybe she became a bit accustomed to not shooting as much. But in this game against the Maitland Mustangs, where the Crusaders had the game until that fourth quarter, where the Stangers brought it on home again, Muffy really kept them in touch, playing all 40 minutes, and she's had 30 points, 17 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 steals. 17 rebounds is huge. She had the most rebounds for her team, which is pretty outstanding given she's, a point guard, but not the most rebounds for the whole game because Casey Newbert had 21. So shout out to Casey Newbert as well. 28 and 21 game of the week honors, player of the week honors, sorry. But yeah, just giving it to Muffy, huge numbers. Glad that she is finding her feet and confidence again with being a scorer for this Central Coast team who still seem to be really light on personnel. So the likes of Muffy, Leilani, actually Michaela Donkins, it says, didn't play this game. So there you go. More heavy lifting for the rest. And yeah, Muffy really stepping up, keeping the crew in touch in that game despite the loss. So she is my good egg of the week.
An excellent choice. I think we just got to shout out everyone on that Crusaders roster playing 35 plus minutes every night. It feels like I've got basically 35 minutes and then a couple of subs who spell people for 3 or 4 minutes, a different player for 3 or 4 minutes at a time. And it's pretty much just what they have to do. You don't have rotations at this stage. You're just subbing people who are, need a spell.
Pretty much. And the players that they have on their roster at the moment who are doing just that are players who would be playing youth league usually, but for some reason they're either deciding to do the double or maybe they're just doing NBL 1. But it's really interesting that usually there's a lot more youth league players on that roster who are going to do the 2 or make the transition because they sometimes at least train together. But yeah, no youth league players to rely on to make up the bench for this Crusaders women's side. So doing it really, really tough at the moment.
That was the Sunday game. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, that's hardcore. So yeah, Muffy, good egg of the week. So now it's time for our athlete interview. Now we had to flip the script a little bit this week because our guest has team training on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So we were able to record with this particular guest yesterday on Lockie's birthday. So we get to relive part of your birthday again. So what's going to happen now is we're going to play the recorded interview on screen and while Lockie and I take a quick break. But yeah, I won't say who it is because the intro is in the next part. So here we go. Our guest today is one of many homecoming signings for the NBL 1 East 2025 season. They have been a walking double-double since probably forever. And to prove it, they average 17.03 points per game and 11.53 rebounds per game over 4 years of their NBL 1 North career. And currently in the NBL 1 East, this player is averaging a very neat 23 points per game and 14 rebounds per game in their return season for their home side, the Canberra Nationals. Our guest has also played for Australia in one of the first 3x3 women's teams, even before they played at WNBL. Our very special guest today, if you haven't guessed already, is Carly McAllister. Hey, Carly, how you going?
Hey, I'm good. Thank you for the intro. How are you guys going?
Oh, no problem at all. We do try and pump up our guests a little bit in the intro, so I'm glad you liked it. But we're pretty good. How are you going over there, Locke?
I'm pretty good. I mean, it is my birthday, so
Oh.
It is too. Happy birthday. I did. You know what? This morning I knew it was your birthday and I went to put up like a story posting and then I got sidetracked with my actual job. So I do apologize. Happy birthday, Lockie.
Thanks, Gwen.
Well, anyway, got to own that. So Carly, here at East Got Game, we always start and end our interviews with the same questions, our bookend questions. So the first question we're going to ask you today is, where did your basketball journey begin?
It began in Canberra. So I did play a lot of sports as a kid. I was into athletics and netball, and I decided that I preferred basketball over netball. It just gave me a little bit more freedom on the court. Plus, my older brother played. So we used to play out the back a lot. So that's probably what got me into basketball.
And does your brother still play himself?
He was playing for a little while, but he's pretty busy with his work at the moment. So he's a personal trainer, so all those late and early mornings. So it's a bit hard, but yeah, we still get shots up here and there, and still pretty competitive. But yeah, it's a lot of fun.
So, was there apart from the different styles of the game, did you ever get into a situation where where the commitment for one sport over the other made it too tough to kind of juggle everything you were doing?
Yeah, I think like as a kid, especially when you're playing so many different sports, there's always a juggle. But I just loved being on the basketball court. I just felt so free running up and down, and I always just chose basketball over everything. To be honest, just got obsessed with it.
And did you start playing as a junior at Belconnen and come up through the ranks of the rep program, or did you just play local?
Yeah, so I played under 12s rep for Canberra. So we did all the SJLs where we went to like Wollongong and Albury, and that was always so much fun. And we got to miss school and play basketball, which was cool. So I went through the junior Canberra program, played for Dodgers, which is in the local comp here. And then, just kept climbing up, and it's a lot of fun. And Canberra's a really good organisation, and they really care about their players. And I'm very lucky to have gone through their program.
Any chance you had Rob Parker as your coach at Dodgers?
Yeah. I had him since I was like 10 years old. He's like honestly a family member now. I've known him for so long.
Yeah, he is an icon of Belconnen basketball, especially with Dodgers. He recruited me to play Dodgers before I left Canberra.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
He's actually still coaching now. So, yeah, he's still around, which is awesome.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good.
Small world.
I got to ask, though, what netball position did you play?
Well, I was actually quite short when I was a kid. And then randomly in year 10, I had a growth spurt. So I was a centre for a while. And then went to goal attack and then goal shooter. Yeah,
that sounds pretty accurate. A lot of transferable skills as well.
I probably would have honestly liked to try goal defense, but netball's a fun game.
Cool.
So you were known primarily as a 3x3 player before you got a gig in the WNBL, and you actually represented Australia before playing WNBL. And so how does 3x3 transfer to the 5v5 game?
Yeah, it was funny how it all happened. So I was playing for Bendigo in Seagull. So this was a few years ago. And we'd actually made the conference final. And from there, I received a call asking if I would play in Mongolia for Basketball Australia. And it was a lot of fun, and we won a gold medal there. So then I realized that I love playing 3-on-3, but I also love playing 5-on-5. But it's cool because 3-on-3 is such a physical game. It's also very athletic, and there's not a lot of split line help, so there's nowhere really to hide. So you have to be on it a lot of the game. But it definitely helps my 5-on-5 game being a lot more aggressive. It helped my rebounding, realizing that there's other components to the game rather than just scoring, like rebounding, passing, defending. So that really helps my game with the 5-on-5.
And had you played much 3x3 before you got the call up?
Not a lot, to be honest. In Canberra, they were running a few hustle and CLB tournaments. So I had played a few games in the local comps that they were running. And then we just had a few training camps before we went away to Mongolia, and it was so much fun. I loved it. It was the best experience, and it was playing at an international level for 3-on-3 is so fun, and you get to travel to some really cool places. So I was lucky. I've gone to China, Mongolia, Egypt. So yeah, it's really cool.
I think that's the thing with 3x3. You see so many countries that you don't ever see perform at the 5v5 level who are actually pretty good at 3x3. So you get to travel to a lot of more varied places and play a lot more varied teams than you would in 5v5.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I was lucky enough to go over to Egypt to play, and it was really cool. The court was set up right in front of the pyramids, so it was just like this amazing experience. But exactly like what you said, there's so many countries that do play 3-on-3, and they play it quite often, especially over in Europe. So it's a really cool pathway for people that don't want to necessarily just play 5-on-5. There's also another pathway now for 3-on-3.
And how's
And
it?
sorry.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Squeen.
No, you keep going. Keep rolling.
So, you, being one of the OGs of Australian 3x3, how has the game? How has it changed over the last few years since you first got involved with 3x3?
Yeah, I played quite a while ago now, but yeah, there's been a lot more exposure, which is really cool. Able to go to different tournaments. When I first started playing, there weren't a lot of girls who played. So in some of the competitions, I had to play against the boys and be on the boys' team to get the ranking points up. But it's really cool to see, like I said, different pathways now. Like the Hustle does such a good job sending players away, and CLB's done a really good job for a long time now. So it is really cool, and there's heaps of tournaments around the world. So I hope people keep playing it, and yeah, I hope they keep going to different tournaments.
Yeah, sorry, I was going to ask about the trip to Egypt, because that wasn't a Basketball Australia trip, was it?
No, that was a Red Bull funded trip. So Red Bull do a few different tournaments throughout the year, and so we were lucky enough, we went to Egypt. The following year, players went to New York and America. So they find these really cool, unique spots around the world. And yeah, it's a really amazing experience, because you get to go and play basketball with your friends, traveling the world at cool places.
I guess that's the thing with 3x3. You can set a court up anywhere. I know, like, they play at the Overseas Passenger Terminal in Sydney. In China, you see them in the middle of shopping centres. It's just what they can do.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's such a cool experience. It's so much fun.
So you also obviously play a lot of 5v5 now. So how did you actually end up in Adelaide for your WNBL debut?
So Eric and I came back to Canberra for a little bit, and I was going to play in Canberra under Nat Hurst, and then COVID happened. So then that season didn't go ahead, but I had already signed to play in Adelaide, which was the hub year. So that was obviously a really unique experience, playing in a hub up north for WNBL, which was a lot of fun, and I'm really grateful for that experience. So that's essentially how it happened. I was back in Canberra, and Nat was assisting in Adelaide.
Tell us a little bit more about the hub season for those that might have missed that blip in history.
Yeah.
What was it like being in Mackay for so long?
Yeah, it was a crazy experience, and also crazy for my first time in the WNBL, like first time in the league, being in the hub. But it was cool. It was we were up there for a few weeks. We obviously trained in Adelaide before we left, so we had a few weeks in Adelaide before we went up, and it was a shorter season, but it was cool because there was a lot of local Australians in that hub playing. So it's great to see the Australian talent that we have here. Yeah, and I really enjoyed it, and it was a great experience for me, lots to learn, and yeah, I was really grateful.
I think that season it gave some Australian players who would have missed spots to imports a real chance to get some exposure and probably set themselves up for longer stints in the league than they would have otherwise had.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it was a great opportunity to showcase what talent we have here in Australia. So, yeah, it was a unique situation for sure, but yeah, definitely positives that came out of it.
And when you're around your teammates so often, I mean, you're obviously around your teammates pretty often as it is, but you don't actually really get the chance to go home at the end of the day after a game, after a training session. How does that affect the dynamic of the team throughout the season?
Yeah, that was definitely something that everyone had to adjust to. I think for me personally, like I left home when I was 17 and worked and played basketball as well. So I'm a very independent person. So I am used to having my own time and my own space. But it was a really cool experience to be around all the different professional athletes and learn from them. Like playing with Steph Talbot was really cool to learn from her game. And it was cool. It was fun. We got to just live up north and play basketball for a while. So it's a really cool opportunity that not a lot of people will experience. So yeah, it was great.
And because it sounds like around that time, you said you were playing C-ball and then you got the call up for 3x3 and then your first WNBL gig. So lots of like changes in a good space of 2-3 years. Did you have to come up with some kind of, self-care strategies or other outlets to help you cope with some of those changes? Or were you just kind of rolling with it and loving it?
Yeah, it was cool. I was definitely rolling with it and just embracing any opportunity that was coming towards me. Like I said, very grateful for all the opportunities. But at the end of the day, there's more to life than basketball. So I think it's really important that athletes, in particular female athletes, have other outlets outside of the game, because you never know, example COVID, you never know when things like that can happen. So for me, my outlets are spending time with Eric, going to the gym, doing yoga. I love cooking. I'm a nutritionist, so food's really important to me. So I think those are definitely my outlets, and it's good to focus on other things, not just basketball, as great as basketball is, but yeah.
And a lot of those things you've mentioned actually come back to improving your basketball anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think for me personally, when I live like holistically, where I focus on all aspects of my life, I think that's when I probably play my best with basketball. So yeah, getting out in nature, doing yoga, like you said, it all benefits the game at the end of the day.
What was the biggest difference between playing C-ball for a few years and then jumping up to WNBL? What were some of the biggest differences in terms of level of competition and, I guess, style of play that you experienced between the two different levels of basketball?
Yeah, a lot of the girls were incredible athletes in the WNBL. The intensity of trainings would go up, but it was never, it was always really competitive, which was cool. And the difference, I guess, with C-ball, you'd train twice a week, but with WNBL, we're training every day plus gym. So that's obviously a big step up for people. It was cool. And it was really cool to experience what being a professional athlete meant. And, looking after your body after trainings to get it ready for the next day. So there's a lot that goes into it. But that was probably the biggest jump, just the training load compared to the C-ball or state league level.
And are those learnings things you try to instill into some of the younger players now that you're at nationals? With a fair few younger players on your team, just kind of instilling into them that this is what it takes to get to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also what I learned in the WNBL in particular is there's a lot more to the game, like I said before, than just scoring. So knowing your role, whether like you come in, you're just an elite rebounder, a great defender, a great passer, whatever your role is, just go and focus on that. And I think that's something really important for kids to know these days, that yes, it's awesome if we can all score 30 points, but you can impact the game in other ways. So that's definitely something that I try help younger athletes, because I know, people really want to score and have a great scoring game, which is awesome. But if you can impact the game and help build the team up that way, I think that's the best way to learn.
And you actually played 4 seasons with the Sunshine Coast up here in NBL 1 North, perhaps even a season before it was technically NBL 1 North, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And obviously where you met your husband, Eric, as well, who was also a baller. But
Yeah.
what brought you home back to Canberra for the 2025 season?
Yeah, we were lucky to live up north for quite a while. It was lucky we lived in Paradise and played basketball, so it was really cool years of our life. But and we're very grateful because we met lifelong friends up there. So Eric he currently works for the Dallas Mavericks, so he's an international scout now that he's not playing anymore. So there were some opportunities for him back in Canberra that helped him with the Dallas stuff. Also, Basketball ACT offered me a job in the office around women in sport. They received a really amazing grant that is pretty much to firstly to do some research to see what the barriers are around women in sport and helping females stay and retain in the game. So currently I'm working for Basketball ACT around everything to do with women in sport and helping girls stay in the sport and what we can do on and off the court for females. So that was a massive drive of why we came back.
And so that's you go.
No, yeah,
Lockie.
you go ahead, Squim.
No, we're probably going to ask a similar thing, so you go.
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask a little bit more about that role. Is it purely research, or do you get to go out in the community and form partnerships, or get any coaching or anything like that? And is it part of do you get any research assistance? Like, is it formal kind of research too, where you get to work with, say, University of Canberra or ANU?
Yeah, it's like all of the above, pretty much, is what you just said. So it's over 3 years. So the first year is, definitely about researching and implementing small little pilot programs, going out to the community to see what we can do better as an organisation to help females on and off the court. It's all about that and implementing different programs, mental health, wellbeing programs. It's pretty much everything that you can think of, which is really cool, and I'm really loving it. And I'm loving working with Basketball ACT. They're really forward thinking with this, and so it's been really great.
And what are I mean, it's obviously early stages, but what are some of the findings that you've had so far?
Yeah, it's interesting the ages that sort of drop out at the moment. You'd think it's sort of the older girls, but we're finding it's the younger, around under 12s. That's always interesting, but definitely I think costing, how much it is to play basketball for people. Culture is a massive thing for women. Seeing what the culture is like, and definitely confidence on and off the court. So those were the three main things that I've sort of found some understanding about. Now it's just a matter of working out how we can make changes and make it viable for women to stay in sport.
And talking about younger players and being from your 3x3 background, do you see 3x3 as something that can be used in junior training? Because in 3x3 you touch the ball a lot more. You're obviously always involved. And you see, like soccer, they play 5-a-side up until under 9s, and then they don't really get to a full-size pitch until they're really properly ready to play on a full-size field with 11 on 11.
Yeah, I think it definitely benefits, and it's really great to learn from 3-on-3. Like I said, you don't really have a split line, so you have to be able to communicate with your teammates. You have to be able to defend multiple positions. You have to be quite versatile. So it's teaching you really good fundamentals for 5-on-5. So I think if young girls and boys can get into 3-on-3, it will really help their game in 5-on-5.
And are you aiming to help retain women in basketball, like at all different skill levels? So like reps and social levels as well, and across the lifespan?
Yeah, 100%. We're, everything. Div 1 level, rep level, community level, all ages, absolutely everything is what we're aiming for. So it is really exciting, and it's really exciting that Basketball ACT were given this grant, and it's really exciting that we're implementing this, and especially for me coming through the junior system with ACT, I've been there as a player, so I understand some barriers, and I can use my experience to help people as well. So it's honestly been really great to be back there working there.
Yeah, something we found recently here in Brisbane, we started a women's only scrimmage, and it's affordable. It's only $5. It's every fortnight, and we welcome anyone from any skill level, and it's a good opportunity for women like in their late 20s and into their 30s and 40s and 50s who are learning to play basketball for the same time, just to be able to learn the new skill in a really supportive and welcoming environment, but at their own pace. Because sometimes just signing up for a social comp where you're playing against more experienced people, they're not always going to give you the chance to just develop at your own pace without having the ball stripped or without getting blocked or something like that. And sometimes that can be expensive and also discouraging. So I don't know, get a mama ball going on a Wednesday, on a Wednesday morning. Oh, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. Yeah, it's funny you say that. We actually have implemented a program called Mums and Bubs. So it's really cool. So we have on one court the mums playing, and then on the other court it's like chaos, but it's so much fun. There's just kids playing and learning, and we have a lot of games for them. So it's really cool. And afterwards, it's a bit of a coffee catch up, and we've created a bit of a community. So it's really cool that we've established that. So it's funny you say that.
That sounds really, really cool. Yeah.
Talking about the coffee reminds me of when was it Freddie Webb was talking about walking basketball.
Oh yeah.
You gotta make sure the coffee and the biscuits afterwards are on point.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know if you're gonna, coffee's great, but if you're gonna start to introduce biscuits to the post-game catch-up, Carly, you've got to make sure your biscuit game is top-notch, because I think that's also what kept a lot of people at walking basketball in Illawarra.
That's fair. We did think about coffee and cake, so maybe we'll go biscuits.
Yeah. But bringing it back home to the NBL 1 East competition, tell us a little bit more about this nationals group, looking a little bit different from last season, and including your addition, which was a massive signing for the league. Tell us about the group so far this year.
It is quite different to last year, and a new coach as well, Shane, who's been awesome. So it's a lot of local girls, which is really cool that Basketball ACT is really supportive on supporting local, and we have great talent here. So it's great. We also have signed Jade, who's from Albury. She obviously has a wealth of experience and knowledge coming from a winning championship team. So it's been really cool to have her. She's a great player and a great person, so she fits in really well. And the team's quite young, but there's heaps of talent, and we're all really enjoying playing with each other. And the style of basketball that we're playing is pretty upbeat and fast tempo. We're not a big team. Abby Kettles and I, we're probably the tallest on the team, but we're sometimes playing out of position. So we're not a massive team, but we're just utilizing the strengths that we have and kicking the ball up, running fast, playing up and in on defense. So it's a fun style to play for sure.
I also wanted to ask as well, with this particular lineup, and I guess as well the level of competition in the East. We've seen the NBL 1 East is kind of seen as the lower rung of the NBL 1 competitions across Australia, but it's certainly starting to show up, and the level of competition is definitely increasing every season. But what's your experience so far comparing NBL 1 North in terms of level of professionalism and style of play, level of competition compared to the East so far for you?
Yeah. I wasn't really sure what to expect with the East. Obviously playing up north for quite a while, and up north had some incredibly talented women, imports, local talent, WNBL girls. So it's a really strong league up there. But coming into the north has honestly just been the same. Like, there's incredible talent here, and I think it's exciting for Basketball Australia seeing how many talented women there are, and males, obviously, in the males comp, but how many talented women there are. And like I said, I wasn't sure coming into the East what to expect. I was just coming with an open mind, and it definitely is a lot more physical down here. I've definitely noticed that. But it's still great competition. So yeah, I think they're on par, to be honest.
Yeah, wasn't expecting the physicality to be more in the East. So that's a really interesting insight, actually.
It's honestly a lot more physical.
Yeah, wow, there you go. Every episode of our podcast as well, we like to review a game, and we call it the EGG Game of the Week. And the game of the week for round 6 is actually going to be your game against the Maitland Mustangs. And if it's not too soon to talk about it, because it was quite a dramatic game where unfortunately Canberra Nationals ended up losing that one. If it's not too soon, if the wounds still aren't too fresh, tell us some of your main takeaways from that game from the Nationals' perspective.
Yeah, I guess firstly, it's a massive road trip. So being up in the north, I think the furthest we drove was to Gold Coast, which was like 2.5 hours. So that was pretty interesting for me, but it was a cool experience. So driving up to Maitland first, and yeah, I think for the first half we were pretty solid, and then I think we came out a little bit flat in the third, and then going into the fourth. Maitland again are a really great team. They move the ball really well. I've played with Shaq before, and I love her game offensively and defensively. So I think she's a great asset to that team. And but with our team, I think when we kick the ball and play at pace, we look great. Like I said, I think we just came out a little bit flat going into the half, but it's only early days and there's a lot to work on, and we'll keep building. But there's definitely a lot of positives to come out of that game, and it was a high scoring game, which is great. But obviously means for us, we do need to do a better job locking down on defense. But again, lots to learn, and we'll just keep building.
And when you say it's high scoring, that means, Maitland putting the ball in the basket a lot, harder to get out in transition, harder to play at pace for you.
Yeah, and team, like, they run the lanes really well. They get 2 feet in the paint and they kick. So obviously that's going to be challenging to guard. And but again, that's definitely our style of play. So we are used to defending that. But I think if we can just tighten up a few things on defense, a few things with rotations, and then always communication, I think we can learn from it and we'll build and we'll just keep growing. But like I said, Maitland are a really great team. I think they scouted us very well too. I think they did a good job with that. So yeah, I think they're going to have a great season as well.
I think if we're up to the last one, Lockie, that's all you.
That's all me, is it? Oh, thank you. Thank you for the birthday present. Our final question, which we end every interview with, every conversation with, and you alluded to it a bit before, but who is Carly McAllister off the court?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, like I said, I a lot of my life I was focusing on basketball, and I think it is important to have other areas outside of basketball. So for me, I love going to the beach, but gym, spending my time with Eric. I love cooking. I love art, drawing, and I love yoga. So they're really me, that's probably me. Yeah.
How do you find the beach situation in Canberra?
Yeah, not great, and the weather's freezing, which has been an adjustment again. But I grew up here as a kid, so it's okay. But yeah, I am missing the beach a little bit, but it's okay. Canberra's still great. We have mountains and a lake.
You have a lake.
Yeah.
And you talked about loving art and drawing, and you actually studied fine arts. So how seriously do you take the art nowadays, or is it just something you dabble in?
Yeah, I studied fine arts after school, and it was everything. So it was sculpture, painting, printmaking, photography, all of that, which I love doing. And I wasn't sure really what I wanted to do with that. I had a little thought in mind, which was to do like art therapy around helping people use art as a way of healing. So that was sort of what I was thinking about. But then I also really love the nutrition and how food can help heal the body, and how important it is for athletes to fuel and to eat and to recover. So yeah, I think art's more of a hobby now. Maybe one day I'll pick it back up and do my art therapy, but I'm definitely more interested in the nutrition healing side at the moment.
And what's your preferred medium to work with when it comes to art?
The art, I love sculpture. I love building things. I think that's a lot of fun. Painting with different colors is cool. It's a cool way to express yourself, and it's interesting. Like if you just have a canvas and you start painting, what comes out. So I think that's a cool way to express yourself. But probably sculpture. I like to build things.
Yeah, that's really cool. Sculpture isn't always a very common common preference when people are into fine arts or have a creative flair. That's really cool.
Yeah, thank you. I think I think I wanted to do more like jewelry and I guess that's a form of sculpture. But yeah, it is a bit different, I guess.
And are you able to give any of your teammates some handy nutritional advice here and there on the road or at training, or anyone coming up to you with any self-referrals yet?
Yeah, for sure, and which is awesome. I'm more than happy to help, and I think that's something that we're going to implement with Busway CT, especially with females. We want to start educating people on how important it is to eat healthy and to fuel your body. So soon you might see with Busway CT, we'll be coming out with a few nutrition things, but I'm not sure yet. So we'll see what we do with that. But yeah, it's cool.
We'll keep an eye out for it. And I remember also once upon a time, I think you and Eric were going to do a podcast together. Did you end up launching that?
Yeah, we were going to do it through COVID, and our main focus, he was going to mainly focus on the male aspect of athletes, and I wanted to really focus on the female around like body image and well-being and food. But it was through COVID, and then I went and played WNBL, and then from there we kind of had other things we needed to focus on, and with his work with Dallas, that really picked up. So he's obviously quite busy scouting. So we haven't finished that, but I'm sure in future we'll definitely love to get back into it and do a podcast together.
Sounds really cool. Between the two of you, you've certainly got a lot of knowledge and experience to offer and to provide to the whole community, really, especially being players with lived experience of doing the things that you're going to talk about. I think it could be really cool.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's cool. It's cool that we've been able to be athletes together and grow together on and off the court. So yeah, I think that'd be really cool if we could do something for sure.
I think, have you got any more questions, Lockie, before we wrap up?
I think we can wrap up.
That sounds good. Well, Carly, thanks again so much for your time today, especially on a day off to be our athlete interview for this week. And yeah, we really are wishing you and the Canberra Nationals best of luck for the rest of the season. Like you said, very talented and young local team and lots of big things ahead of them for the season. So hopefully you can crack that top 8.
Hopefully. Yeah, thank you. I think it's exciting where we're going with the season, and I definitely appreciate you guys having me on. So thank you.
No worries. All right, we're back. There we have it. That was our lovely interview with Carly McAllister. Lockie, I just noticed that you were wearing the same jumper on the same yesterday and today for both recordings. Was that for continuity? Wait, I'm not sure if I could hear you then.
No, you couldn't because I used my microphone whilst the thing was on. But yes, it's not a very conspicuous light, the mute light on my microphone.
Oh, yeah. Do you have the same as me where it's just like a flashing light or a solid light?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you're
But
doing
yes,
the
it was
responsible
100% for continuity and not because it was hanging over my clothes basket.
Sure. That's the story we'll go with.
Yeah.
But otherwise, yeah, thanks again, everyone, for joining us this week on eScot Game. Remember, you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at eScot Game. Or you can continue to find our episodes on your preferred streaming platforms. But most importantly, Lockie,
Don't sleep on the East.